I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. Ah! It begins!
They fly. The Storches of the Empire they won't deny. Storches, metal flying machines in red. Storches, cyber-rocky artillery-led. Storches, fire missiles and laser guns. Storches, seize the skies under planet G-suns. With blinding speed, Storches soared through the air. Lightning fast aerial fighters will dare. Shoot down the Republic, Zoids to the ground. Storches make their prehistoric name profound. Boots and lawsuits fall short of your results. Glidara won't dare fight and will default. Pegasus is outdated and obsolete. mighty suns. The planetoids felt the war spark up again. It was not a matter of if but when. Blue guardians again contest red mutants. Seething Zoid hatred spews like pollutants. The monster machines clash once again in war. Blue Zoids flash against red just like before. One conference of darkness hatches something new. For united Zoid army Zkorch comes through. The monster machines clash once again in war. Blue Zoids crash against red just like before. But conference of darkness hatches something new. For united Zoid army Zkorch comes through. The blood red steel Archaeopteryx. The cunning red Zoid with many tricks. To Croc, he takes to the air. Last guardians and mutants without a care. With blood-red metal wings, Zkorch glides and soars. Cybernetic Archaeopteryx scores. With his missiles and guns, Zkorch will battle guardians and mutants to the death rattle. Croc schemes to take his army to the stars, to lead from planet Zoidstar and its scars. With his missiles and guns, Zkorch will battle guardians and mutants to their death rattle. Croc schemes to take his army to the stars, to lead from planet Zoidstar and its scars. Zkorch will follow to where his master wills, and bring his aerial Zoid combat skills. The blood red steel Archaeopteryx. The cunning red Zoid with many tricks. To Croc, he takes to the air. Last guardians and mutants without a care. Till galactic conquest comes, Zkorch will follow. Blasting guardians and mutants till hollow. Along with Croc's commandos, Zkorch Bion. Snake, Scarab, Hellcat, and the Rocket Iguan. The blood red steel Archaeopteryx. The cunning red Zoid with many tricks. To Croc, he takes to the air. Last guardians and mutants without a care. The blood red steel Archaeopteryx. The cunning red Zoid with many tricks. To Croc, he takes to the air. Last guardians and mutants without a care.
It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight. I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.